Hello and welcome back. This is part 4 of my kitchen shelf project. Part 1 was the design, and part 2 was cutting up of all the raw stock. Part 3 was the machining and gluing up of the shelf, and in part 4 we will be finishing this project. So let's get started. Glue's all set up, and now it's time to get it down off of the bench. First, let me reconfigure my bar clamp back to a clamp from a spreader so I can hang it back on the shelf. Then we'll get the rest of this thing taken apart and get it down off the bench. I wonder if it'll stand up on the bench. Not quite enough. So we'll get a good look in here. We can see the polyurethane glue bleeding through there. Of course, it's stuck to the paper that I was protecting my bench with. So it'd be simple to sand that stuff off. Just checking to see everything looks nice and flush. I don't feel any ridges. I'm going to need to glue in the toe kick down there. And we can see the bleed out on top. We've got a bit of sanding to do and to fill in all the holes from the screws. So next we're going to fill in those holes with the screws, get out the finish sander, clean up the paper that's stuck to the front. And before I glue in the toe kick, we're going to take it into the kitchen and ensure I got the feet level. You can see if there's any sanding on the feet down here. I can't test it in here because I know this garage floor is not even and it all still rocks back and forth a little bit, but I may have to sand down the feet to make sure it sits nice and level in the kitchen. So we're getting close. A little bit of sanding, a little bit of paint, and we'll be done with this project. Alright, here's where it's going to go in the kitchen. Sit right here, and it looks like I got it squared up perfectly. I'm kind of surprised, actually. It goes up here and it doesn't rock whatsoever. So this is where it's going, up against the wall. Sure there's no issue with the door opening, but those will be my new shelves. Stuff on this shelf is going to go over here, giving me access to get into the wall over there on the side, which I know I've had some problems inside that wall. So there we go, back out into the shop to get this thing cleaned up and painted. Okay, back up on the bench. Like I think I mentioned before, this is not a fancy cabinet of any way, but we want to get as much of the sanding done as one pass as possible. So we're just going to be using spackling compound to cover up all the holes. You may see a little blemish up here. We're going to have to get that, before I start the spackling, we're going to have to get that uncovered, some of that tape off, so I can also get that covered up. No fancy finish on this one, just going to be plain old house latex paint. That's good enough for me to get some spackling compound on there to cover up the blemish. Looking at a couple other of these. So now let's just get the blemishes covered. All the screw holes are filled up. Once the spackling has set, we'll go ahead and start our finish sanding on all these. Sand the rest of this tape off, clean up the bleed out that's in some of the corners. Obviously sand this down, sand the top down so it's nice and flat. And then, where's it at? There it is. And at that point, I will, at that point, once all the basic finish sanding is done, I will be at that point to fit this in there. This edge goes up here. If you can see that in the video, I've got a line marked approximately where it'll be on this end. And I will sit that or sand and cut that to fit so it just fits in there just right. Glue that in. And at that point we will be ready for paint. Power sanding left a slight dimple on all of the screw holes, so a very light coat of spackling and then hand sand it flat. There's one of the worst polyurethane bleed outs. That was not so bad. The other ones were pretty minimal. And to get rid of that, you just take a large chisel hope I'm staying out of the camera. Let me turn the around. Yeah, I'm not certain that you're going to see this very well. Maybe if I move the camera around to the other side. And then we go down from the top, or not necessarily the top, but the other side. Now this does not work if you're going to stain a project, because it will not stain well where the glue was sitting. There are other methods I use to control that, but this one is going to be painted. Another way to hide this surface is to glue some coving in there, but we're not going to go to that much trouble. No! Wish this camera would give me a little bit of notice when that battery's going to die on me. So I pretty much finished chiseling that one out. It's going to need a little bit of sanding. And now for the last one that needs to be cleaned up. There's also some bleed out on this, but this is the bottom of the shelves, and I'm not even going to bother cleaning that up. It's not going to be visible. So all that's left, I believe, finish sanding, a quick inspection of all the surfaces, and some paint. Okay, much of the sanding is done, not all of it. I've got to stand it up now and sand the shelves and get the finish sander down and clean everything up. And it's paint time. Well, it's sanded and we have the first primer coat in place. And we've got to wait about an hour for the primer to set up, and then we're going to be putting on the final coat. Time for the final coat. I got my paint stuff over here. Small 6-inch rollers, some internal latex paint, and of course the bookcase. Not bookcase. Kitchen shelf. So let's get the final coat in place. I've got 2 coats of primer on there. First one didn't quite cover up some of the wood blemishes, so I threw another coat on there, and here we go. That's it. All I got left to do is a little bit of cleanup. Wait a day for it to dry and put it in the kitchen. Almost ready. My last step here is my anti-tip over idea. It's going up against a refrigerator. It's pretty tall and not very wide, so it could tip easily. So we've got these 2 neodymium magnets, high strength magnets, that we're going to put into these 2 counter bores. With the theory it's going to stick to the refrigerator and inhibit it from falling over. We're going to staple 2 pieces of rag cut off here. I think this was an old t-shirt to hold them in. So let's see how this is going to work. got to be careful with these magnets. They come with this little plastic separator, making them relatively easy to come apart. If they actually go into each other directly, they can become very difficult to take apart. And now I have to keep them a significant distance away. So let's get this started. Now, we're ready to go to the kitchen. You know, it feels like my little magnets offer zero adhesion to the refrigerator. That was a little unexpected. Now actually, I changed my mind. Because of the flexibility of the fabric, it comes out to here, and now it's difficult. Actually, you might even be able to see the refrigerator moving as I shake this. So yes, they do offer a significant resistance to tip over. Might be better if I put a not so flexible material, but we're going to leave it as is. So, for the first time, my tortilla strips now have a home that's not on the floor. And I've got a lot of other stuff we're going to need to move over here so things have a home. So that's the end of another Diggy's Do's project. And now I need to think about what the next one's going to be.
Be sure to subscribe to be notified of new uploads and hit that notification bell to be informed of future updates.